how integrated within this larger ecosystem. And then we've got another tool for faceted sets. So basically this tool makes a very nice thing, and what is basically it extracts metadata which exist already in patterns, and the work that Yannis has done also, it can be used to extract dynamically metadata. And this is very important, so it can present a very, very useful view to the pattern sets. For example, during the experiments, I haven't deeply in detail analyzed the result yet, but it was very profound from the experiments that everyone was excited by the fact, for example, that he can identify how often a classification scheme was used based on the results that have been produced. Okay, because just to make clear, the faceted set was based on this result list. Okay, and this is another requirement. So somehow the results tool, the results view, need to transfer the results that they are produced to the faceted tool or to the clusters view tool in order to have synchronized views. So this is another very important requirement, something which needs to be addressed, synchronization. So we've got the view clusters, the entities facets, we've got filter and group, we've got the classification sets, many different, in fact this is another tool which runs a TI developed by another person, which is in this room as well. So as you can see, PerfectPath, which is an integrated set system, it's not really a single system, but it is a collection of different sets tools, and what PerfectPath provides is a central coordination of all these different tools. The possibility to the end user, to the professional searcher in this case, to deploy, to utilize all these different tools depending on the task that he needs to perform. Of course, if we now sit back and we think again about this design, we will realize that we need totally different type of users, probably. And this might be a big obstacle. Okay, it might be a signal for ideas, for research, that they will produce the right frameworks, the right concepts, the right metaphors, that they will help users to coordinate all these tools. First of all, to find out the existence of these tools, because we may have tens or even hundreds of tools available. So it is a lot about search tool discovery, but not only about discovery of these tools. When you discover the tools that you would like to use, you must have the right framework that will allow you, without putting a lot of overload, 5 minutes, okay, without putting a lot of overload of how to coordinate all these tools. And many other tools have been identified. So just by watching 15 minutes of video, this has been produced by 15 minutes of video, 10 different tools have been identified, and I believe that this is, it becomes now quite clear of how much complicated can become the design of integrated search systems. So obviously, we need to find the right concepts that they will support such type of complexity. And how we can do that? I think that we need to rethink the search experience. That's the keynote message out of this talk. This is what I would like to present to you. So what we need is really find the right principles that we need to analyze the task, analyze the users, analyze the tools, and do these principles exist? Yes, they do exist. If we look back at the information science, even from the 70s, there is a huge amount of work that has been produced which talks about these principles. The only issue is that we need to rethink all these principles within the context of integrated set systems. Okay? And we need probably to use existing design patterns, but again, these design patterns need to be reconfigured, redesigned in order to accommodate the new situation. So obviously we need to support this complex process, but there are, as I told you before, there are tools and ideas. Support is a lot about supporting choices. So think on the web search, the choices that the user has to do is a list of pages, of web pages, a set of results, and based on the choice that he makes, he can go to another situation. So this is a work which has been produced by Professor Furr from the University of Duisburg. It tries to formalize the interactive information search process based on the probability ranking principle. And basically, what he suggests is a very simple function to calculate the benefit of each decision. Of course, I'm saying very simple because the equation looks very simple. In a very recent discussion that I had with him, even talking about websites, it is extremely difficult to calculate, for example, the benefit of selecting this particular document. So just imagine if we move this decision battlefield, let's say, decision process, not only about selecting from a list of pages, but selecting from a list of many different tools which are available. So we need to calculate, okay, we need to extend, as I say in this slide, the previous model, not only to calculate the benefit of a particular item within a list, but then the whole set of tools becomes a set of items. So this is a higher order problem, and we need to calculate the benefit of a specific tool in a particular information seeking process. Well, definitely we need some support, and I think one key idea, it is a lot about synchronization between the different views which are produced between all of these different tools that may coexist. So this is why I put this slide. So all these are tools, but what is depicted in this slide, we don't really need the tools on. What we need is a very effective synchronization, and I guess there is a lot of research which needs to be done in this area, which will produce the right framework, the right concepts, the right formalizations which are needed to synchronize all these tools. But if we don't do that, what I have observed in my experiment last month in the Greek Patent Office, so if we don't use the right design principles, if we don't really take care of the synchronization between all these tools, these complex interfaces can lead to much worse result to web interfaces. And I have personally observed that in some particular tasks where the users were asked to use a simple web interface and also to use an interface which was based on an integrated set system, we have observed that the web interfaces were more effective. And probably that was the result. We need to analyze it of better synchronization between the tools. I will need only 2 minutes. Is that okay?
Yes, fine.
Okay. So the last part is about easier integration of IR and NLP tools. This is very important, I would say, a requirement to go to the next step, and that's why I wanted to stress it and discuss it finally, instead of to discuss at the end instead of the beginning of the requirements. So how we can really achieve better integration? We can achieve better integration by standard and protocols. In fact, in this conference, the MUMIA cost actions, which I would like to tell you a few words about it maybe at some point during the break. If you would like to know more about MUMIA, which is a networking activity which organizes events related to this area. We organized a working group meeting on Tuesday. It was organized in Electra Palace. Probably if you have seen the MTSR conference website, you have noticed it. And what we try to do in this meeting is to establish some first guidelines and to identify all the important issues for standards and protocols development. So what we try to identify the beneficiaries of standards and protocols, how exactly standardization will happen, what will be the functional decomposition which is required in order to identify all the components and what are the inputs and the outputs between these components in order to exchange information, and what are the standards which already exist and that we would like to consider. So this is the conclusion of my talk. What I would like to tell you is, based on the experience that I have accumulated the last 20 years that I work on sense technologies, I work quite a lot on cognitive approaches for understanding and designing information retrieval systems or search systems in general. I think that the cognitive approaches, they offer a lot about understanding better and more the information seeking process. But what we need is more. Basically, what we need is we need an improvement and elaboration of all these ideas to address now a new challenge. And the new challenge is the integrated search systems, which represents a new design approach of how we can develop next generation search system. And I think this is an idea which is worth investigating. Whatever it is, it will be more useful, more effective in some particular domains or in some particular situations that still needs to be answered, and it remains an open question. Thank you very much.
I have a question. So how much can we fake this now without no standards?
How much can we?
How much can this be faked now? So, I mean, I understand that this requires a level of integration and standards to accomplish. There's always a tension on the difficulty of doing those standards and being able to fake it now.
Well, there are some efforts which already show there is some potential in these ideas about using standards and protocols in order to develop. For example, the system that I developed, the perfect search system, is based on xvid. xvid is a system which is developed for 10 years now. Okay, and it has been applied in many different domains, like the medical domain, the patent search domain, the bibliographic search domain. And they have already used standards, their own standards, and their own protocols to define communication between different tools. What we would like to do now is to go one step further, okay, in order to define standards which are not only internally used by systems like Perfetpat or ECDL, but they can be adopted more widely by the research community, search solution providers, SMEs that they are providing services, and for them IR and NLP is a core component. So I cannot really answer your question, but I think that this is the right time to do it, because if we manage to develop this ecosystem it will